Syrian conflict began as a shoot of the 2011 Arab Spring uprising. The civil war in Syria sparked on April 29th when a group of teenage Syrians graffitied on the school wall, "The government must go." This action began the uprising for a movement for democracy, but ever since the conflict started for a democracy, it has disintegrated into a cauldron of competing rebel groups, terrorist element, international powers, and religious fractions, all with millions of Syrians killed and displaced. Up to March 11, 2011, President Bashar al-Assad had been ruling with an iron fist. In April 2011, President Bashar al-Assad began to send tanks into cities and having regiment forces open fire on civilians. In the summer of 2011, thousands of regiment soldiers broke off from the government to launch attacks against them. The opposition grew stronger. The United States warned Syria that they were on the verge of a civil war. In August 2011, the Syrian National Council was formed to end President al-Assad's rule and establish democratic state, but opposition grew. By 2014, Syria's crisis had gotten worse. Over 50% of Syrians needed aid. A report published by the UN estimated that the loss was $202 billion. The Syrian war not only turning into a civil war, but also named the worst humanitarian crisis in history.
The Syrian civil war began in 2011 and continues to be fought to this day. There are currently 18 official war factions, with land being disputed in the war. The four main fighting groups are the Kurdish forces, ISIS, the opposition of Assad, and the Assad regime. Assad's regime is mostly supported by the Shia side of the Muslim religion, while the rebel groups are mostly Sunni. Back in July of 2017, around 400,000 Syrians had been recorded killed since the beginning of the war. While Russia and the US both support the fight against ISIS, Russia sides with al-Assad and the United States supports the rebel forces. The US also supports the Kurdish forces, which are enemies of Turkey, which causes conflicts for the US since they are allied with Turkey. In 2011, many countries, including all of the European Union, opposed the conflict in Syria by freezing economic sanctions and banning the import of Syrian oil. Syria was also suspended from the Arab League, November 12, 2011. In 2012, Syrian opposition forces came together to officially form the National Coalition for Syrian Revolutionary and Opposition Forces. Throughout the war, the Assad's regime used chemical weapons multiple times, bringing other countries to intervene, such as the US in 2013, when Barack Obama stated that he would step up the support in Syria after Assad's use of chemical weapons. Supposedly, Syria had destroyed all of its chemical weapons in 2013 as well as in 2015, but on April 4, 2017, Syrian forces started a chemical weapon attack against rebels and civilians. 2 days later, President Trump sent 59 Tomahawk missiles at Shayrat Air Base, which was supposedly a part of the chemical attack.
Hey, al-Assad, what's this?
It's not a chemical weapon. Well, it's not mine.
Tensions with Syria only continue to rise. On multiple occasions, chemical weapons, of which are prohibited by the United Nations, have been used in battles between the Syrian government and the numerous belligerent combatants. The UN's destruction of the chemical weapons in 2013 and 2015 served a warning for the Syrian government, of which Syria neglected to see, as their most recent use of chemical weapons led to the US's airstrike on the Shayrat Air Base. Syria's neglect to abide by UN regulations has led to the death of over 80,000 civilians, a number that continues to rise. As they continue to use banned weaponry, such as cluster bombs, the United States is almost baited to intervene. While Syria is inherently weak compared to the US in military power, the initial contact could lead to a conflict on a larger scale, most likely with Russia, a partial Syrian munitions and infantry supplier.
You could ever support Bashar al-Assad.
Well, you know, Assad's a pretty cool guy when you get to know him.
Well, he's actually ridiculous. All these chemical weapons. I don't understand how you couldn't follow the opposition and
You
fight
know-
against him.
You want to talk to me about ridiculous? You're the one who's supporting the rebels. That's right, ISIS.
I am not supporting ISIS. It's the other rebels I'm supporting. ISIS is awful.
No, yeah, you're right, ISIS is awful, but Turkey's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, we both like Turkey, I thought. Turkey's great.
No, actually, Turkey's not that great now that I, kind of had a moment to think about it.
Well, what's wrong with Turkey?
Nothing really. Yeah, no, you're right, Turkey's actually pretty neat.
Yeah, just like... I'm glad we agree, just like how ISIS is awful.
Yeah, and the rebels suck.
No.
Syria is not only abusing war powers in its own internal conflict, but could become a major factor in a possibly greater strife.